Is that better? I'm so sorry about that. We're having some technical difficulties, but I'm going to say all that again. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you hear me now? Can you guys hear me now? It usually helps when your microphone is unmuted. Like a computer, like it helps when it's turned on, like the microphone. So, my bad. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's, thank you guys, for this week's Facebook Live. We're so excited. If this is your first time here, thank you for joining us. We're so excited that you are here for our Facebook Live. If you're new here, this is your first time, number one, let me know. Put a comment in there and I will see it and I will give you a special shout out. Thank you so much. And if you're new here, this is how it works. My name is Bethany. I'm the host for FinCon. And every week I have a really fun interview with someone. And it is pre-recorded. I will let you know right now. That person may or may not be here watching with us. And I am live. So hey, everyone. I'm so excited. There we go. I'm so excited for this week. If you have been joining us for the past couple of weeks, you know that for February, we focused on blogging. And this month, we are so excited that we're going to be focusing on brands. So this could be working with a brand, like we're going to be talking about today, working as a brand ambassador, or it could be a brand working with influencers or how brands are putting out their content. So we're really excited for what's coming up, what this month is going to look like. And this interview is incredible. Tiffany Aliche, if you are not familiar with what she's doing, she is a FinConner. She got her start in this community as a general financial educator, and her following and what she's been doing just blew up. And now she has over 700,000 women who are a part of her programs. Every year she does a Live Richer challenge. She has hundreds of thousands of women showing up and signing up for these challenges. And in the last few years, she has started working with brands and this interview that I did with her is how she was able to do that. So I'm super excited. Again, let us know that you're here. I'm live. We're going to be pulling up your comments towards the end and we're going to talk about them. We're going to see all the fun things that are possible. Now, I will let you know that we will have someone who's available to answer questions specifically about brand ambassadorship, a brand ambassador of the best ships. And ambassadorship is my favorite. So I'm so excited. Let's go ahead and get started with this interview with Tiffany Aliche. Hi, FinCon family. This is Bethany Bayless, and I have the honor, nay, the privilege, or switch that, both of those things, to be talking to Tiffany Aliche, the budgetnista. Tiffany, how are you?
I am excellent, Bethany. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so excited that we're able to sit down and to talk because, girl, you are killing it. Killing it. You are one of the people that is just in this space and just tearing it up in a way that not many people are. And I'm so excited for you and what's happening, specifically when it comes to brand ambassadorship. And that's what I would love to talk about today. We've heard the term brand ambassadorship thrown around. What does that mean? What exactly is a brand ambassador? And what are some of the work that you do?
So being a brand ambassador typically just means that a brand has reached out to you for you to say something on behalf of them. So you could be in a commercial. It could be a tweet that you send out. It could be a blog post. It could be a radio interview. Really, they want you to represent them because somehow they find that you're in alignment with what a message that they want to tell an audience, or maybe you have an audience yourself and they want you to speak to your own audience. So you just representing the brand, and so that's what it looks like, a relationship that you form with the brand to represent them.
That's awesome. And I am so excited to be talking to you because I have a personal connection with you. And I remember in FinCon New Orleans, you and I were at the same table at a restaurant somewhere in New Orleans, and we were talking about brand ambassadors. So can you explain to me where you were then and what you wanted to do back in New Orleans?
So I remember I wanted to go to FinCon New Orleans because I wanted to eat. And so,
right?
And I didn't go to a ton of classes, right? But there was one particular class instead taught by a woman named Ellie Kay. And it was how to get paid. I think it was something like how I make six figures as a brand ambassador or something to that effect. And I was like, that's the class, you
The
know?
one. The one.
Yes. Literally the one. And then back to the beignets, right? Um, so I took the class. It was totally awesome. I took so many notes. And then afterwards, I went up to Ellie and I said, oh my gosh, you know, this is something I want to do. I have no idea. I'm just kind of starting out. By then I was really just teaching in person in New Jersey where I live. But I had big plans, you know? And, she was like, well, let's sit down. Let me see your website. Let me get to know you a little bit better. And so I showed her my little rinky-dink website that I built myself. And she gave me some great advice. She was like, you know, there's a certain language that a brand will use in an email when they reach out to you. And she said, if, you know, you ever get an email like that, you know, hit me up. And then later on, that evening, I think she met up with you and said, hey, do you guys want to go out to dinner? And we did. And I had alligator for the first time.
Yes, I remember that. And I remember sitting at the table and I vividly remember you saying, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. I want to be a brand ambassador. And I remember thinking back then, like, she could do it. She could do it. And so let's walk through that just a little bit. You set the goal. You wanted to be a brand ambassador. What was the next step for you when it came to building all of that?
So the truth is, so the next step kind of came to me. So, well, key was that I had to do the work as far as like building my personal brand and doing the work. Really, my personal brand was basic financial education and the community, you know, so I've got this huge community now of over 700,000 women. Mm-hmm. But back then it was maybe 3,000 or 4,000, you know, which is still a lot, but, you know, so, but I knew that I had to do the work. I had to really serve my community. I had to pour into them. I had to make sure that they were okay. And that, that's the only thing I knew to do because I didn't know any brands. And then I can remember the first brand, I think it was You Promise, emailed me, and the languaging was what Ellie said I should look out for. It was something like, hey, you know, we love the work that you're doing, and we'd like to talk about what a partnership or something might look like. And I was like, oh, those are the buzzwords. And so I forwarded it to Ellie, and then I called. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, you know.
It's what you said it would be.
Yeah. I think this is one. I couldn't believe it. It was 2 weeks after taking her class, you know. And so she said, yes, it does sound like one. And she gave me this language to use to connect her. And well, right away, she was like, well, and this is what I suggest for everyone is to find yourself an agent, because navigating with brands on your own, not a good idea, because one, you don't want to lock yourself in a position. So let's just say with You Promise, the first brand, I think it was like $1,500 was like the relationship or something to that effect, right? Mm-hmm. So not much. But let's just say it said somewhere in the contract that I couldn't work with any other financial brand for a year. And I didn't realize that. So for $1,500, I could have been locked into a contract for a full year and not made any other money as a brand ambassador. So right away, Ellie asked me, did I want her to represent me? And I was like, yeah, you know, because what's so dope is that she herself was a spokesperson for a number of years and a very successful one. So, and also in the financial education space. So it was like my fairy godmother. She really walked me through. Oh my God. I mean, a perfect fit. It's been how many years now? Like I said, maybe 5, maybe 6 years, about 5 years. And when I tell you, together, Ellie has helped to negotiate hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of brand ambassadorship. I mean, that's transformative for someone's life. And I could not have done it on my own. So this is what you're going to look for in an agent, that they're going to negotiate there. So you have, typically agents will have like a fee, you know, 10%, 15, 20, 30, whatever, you're going to work that out with them. And a good agent is going to include their fee in what you're going to get paid. So let's just say a company wants to offer you $10,000, right? They're going to negotiate to like 15. So you still get your 10 and they get their fee as well. So I've never lost. You know, if anything, sometimes we double, triple, if not quadruple the ask, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So it's been tremendous. I mean, I work with some of the biggest names that you can think of, car companies, huge financial brands, smaller agencies. And it's not just enough when you want to become a brand ambassador. It's not just enough that, you know, you lock in the contract. You have to deliver. So I remember very quickly, Ellie was like, here's the thing, Tiffany, you can never be late. If you're ever submitting any work, CC me. So that way if they ever say, you know, I didn't get the work, I can come in and say, that's not true. Let me talk money. You be Tiffany. You know, also it's my job to be like, hey guys, love me. Okay. you know.
You're gonna be the happy talent, the one who's all good things, and then she's like the bulldog who comes in and is like,
actually, this is why Tiffany's worth this amount of money. And I'm so glad I don't have to do both because that's very difficult. And so it's transformed my life and my business because sometimes a spokesperson job has grown from like, oh, just a blog post or just a social media post or whatever to a whole campaign where it's six figures, you know? And so you just, if you show and prove and you show up and you do the work, I mean, it can really be, I mean, it's just one of the things that I do as a budgetista, but it is definitely adding a significant amount of money to the bottom line of what I do.
Completely. And the thing is that like you have done the work and this comes out of that very naturally. Right. So it's something that is very influx. It comes to you. How do you choose who to say yes to and who to say no to? Because that's something you may not want to align yourself with a brand that isn't aligned with your mission and your goal. So what's that standard for you?
So I'd say I've said no to more than I said yes to. Even when I needed the money, because I don't need it that badly. So I actually have something called the Lisa rule. I'm one of 5 girls, right? My poor dad, I know. And I'm number 2, and Lisa is the baby. And so like I said, as the budgetista, I teach financial education to women. And a few years ago, I used to have a rule, which was like the golden rule. If I wouldn't do it for myself, I wouldn't share it with my community. So my community, they call themselves like the dream catchers. It's like Beyonce has the Beehive, the budgetista has the dream catchers, right? Yes. And so I used to say like, you know, I'm not going to share a brand or I'm not going to share a resource or anything that I would not personally use. That used to be my rule until one day I sent out an email. I send out an email most Wednesdays to my community and I share a resource or tool that I think is great. So I sent it out and then Lisa called me, my sister. I did not know Lisa was a dream catcher. I did not know she was in my email. And she said, hey, sister, the budgetista said, because she does not give Tiffany any respect. The budgetista knows stuff. Tiffany, her sister, knows nothing.
You're an entity, the entity of the budgetista.
Exactly. The budgetista said, you know, this is really great resource. So I signed up for it and my heart stopped. And I said, wait, what resource? And I thought to myself, wait a minute. Why did your heart stop? Why would you be worried that Tiffany followed something that you sent? And I thought, okay, I am more conservative with Lisa than I am with myself.
Oh, interesting.
Because you see what I mean? So, and I thought, I never really thought about that. And I said, okay, new rule, not the golden rule. It's now the Lisa rule. If I would not be comfortable 100% sharing this with Lisa, who I will try different things that I would not give to Lisa because I'm like, it's not a sure thing, you know? And so if I would not share it with Lisa, I will not share it with any dream catchers. And so it makes it tougher to work with people because that rule is stricter than the rule for me.
Yeah.
And so, but it helps to really, because I thought to myself, it's like, if Lisa were to call and ask me about this thing, would my heart stop? And I'd have to think about it and say, oh, okay, it's fine. No, I should automatically be like, oh, I know it's awesome. I've totally vetted it, you know, and so I don't know that I've made a misstep yet. I mean, it's been many years of me sharing brands and resources and tools, and we haven't had really any pushback because I'm really careful about who I choose to work with. Because one, it has to serve the audience. Is it helpful? Is it useful? You know, you can make money a ton of different ways. I used to be a school teacher, and I used to tell the other teachers, you know, when they didn't want to do the work, that it would be fine if we were packing boxes for a living, but these are kids. So, you know, like the work is too important to take lightly. And I feel the same way about helping women with their financial journey. I'm not packing boxes. You know, the work is too important for me to take lightly. And so I've had big banks come to me and beg to work with me. I mean, big banks with big checks. And I've said, no, you know, oh, please, well, we'll give you this. And I'm like, well, no, because to me, and also, too, this is the key for me, is that I'm not just a brand ambassador. Honestly, I consider that a small part of my business, although it makes a good amount of money.
Yeah.
So I told one bank, I remember they were so pushy, and they begged me to come in, and I was like, no. And then they found out that somebody on their team was a dream catcher. So they had her call me. It was like, hi, my name's Crystal. I'm a dream catcher. Could you please come in and meet with? And I was like, oh, Crystal, fine.
Wow, they're really got you where, oh
It's
yeah.
like, under duress, like, what? And they were like, oh, we want to work with you so bad, Tiffany. I said, if you want to work with me, are you doing right by my audience? Before I left, I have a Facebook group called Dreamcatchers Literature. Before I left to come here, I put a post in the group and said, hey, what do you think about this bank? Good, bad, or indifferent? Share your comments below. And they looked like everybody's face went like, ashen.
No, yeah.
And they were like, do you want me to read some of the comments? And they said, no. I said, therein lies the problem. Is that how are you expecting me? I'm not the cleanup woman. Mm-hmm. If you wanted me to work with you, just do right by the people that you serve. Mm-hmm. I said, because the truth is there's no amount of money that you can pay me to what? Sell them out? Because let's just say they were going to pay me $10,000. I can make that at the Budgetnista because the women that I serve pay that. You're going to pay me $50,000. I can make that at the Budgetnista. $100,000. I can make that at the Budgetnista. There's no amount of money. So my father would say, he who pays the piper determines the tune, right? Mm-hmm. So what that means is that whoever your money flow is coming in from, they are really the ones that are determining how you behave, especially in business. So I've made a determination that most of my income is going to come directly from the Dreamcatchers. So I'm never tempted to go outside and say, oh, I could just use a little bit more. No, because if I do right by my Dreamcatchers, they continue to patronize the business. Yeah. And I don't ever have to work with a company that's not in alignment so we can make ends meet.
Yeah. And it's such a testament to loyalty of the brand. Like they are loyal to you because they see you protecting them and that you care about them. And it's really incredible to see. When you are determining your rates, how do you do that? So let's say that someone is either thinking about starting or are already there. How do you determine what rates that you charge? And is that something that changes over time?
So in the beginning, honestly, I didn't know. I leaned heavily on Ellie, my agent, to say, like, is this fair? Because she had a really good understanding of like what you could expect at this level, what you can expect at this level. So in the beginning, I asked, some other people that I knew that did spokesperson work to get a general sense. And then I leaned on Ellie. And now that I've reached a level where so now I don't necessarily I set them and you can take it or leave it. I'm at the point now, And so every year my rates go up by a good amount of money. Mm-hmm. And I do it based upon, because one, I can't say yes to everything. So if you're asking me to set aside time from something else that I'm working on, or asking me to leave my home and leave my family, if you're asking me, then you're going to pay a good amount of money, or because the truth is I make enough home taking care of the Budgetnista and the Dreamcatchers. So I don't have to say yes. And so, now I just said every year I increase my rates based upon what I think the value of my time is now.
That's awesome. And I would love to just go through some of these things. If people, they might not realize what is a brand ambassador and what's not. So I'm going to name something in the space, whether it's social, whatever, and you tell me if it's brand ambassador or not. Okay. All right, let's do it. Sponsored post.
Brand ambassador.
Yeah. Facebook Live.
Brand ambassador.
Okay. Tweet.
Brand ambassador.
Tweet party.
Brand ambassador.
Satellite media tour.
Definitely brand ambassador.
Yeah. What are some other hidden ones that are out there that people don't even think about they should be charging?
Yeah, so I have because I have Dreamcatchers all over the country, we actually have chapters. Mm-hmm. And so there are some companies that will actually sponsor chapter meetings.
Oh,
hello.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's one. Email. So I have an email list of about 500,000, if not more or less, and then, so I send out emails. And sometimes a company will want to sponsor that email, so that's brand ambassador work.
Email.
Mm-hmm. And then two, you might create. So I have this thing called the Literature Challenge that I do every year. It's totally free for my community. And, because about 700,000 women have gone through one or more of the literature challenges. And so we've had, folks, sponsor it. And so that's also, because they want me to be their brand ambassador as it relates to the challenge and as it relates to their product. And so sponsoring that particular challenge. So you might have an online class, you might have a digital ebook. These are things that you can also get paid for as a brand ambassador.
What about media work that you do? So if you go on a show like
Yes.
The Real,
I may not be their go-to financial person,
maybe, and I may or may not have been in the audience for one of them. So cool. When you go on a media post, or I'm sorry, a media interview, what does that look like from a brand ambassador perspective?
So sometimes I'm on The Real and it's totally The Real saying, hey, Tiffany, we want to fly you out because we want you to talk about credit. And then sometimes there's actually a company that says, hey, Tiffany, do you have a relationship with a media platform? And I'll say, yes, The Real or The Harry Show or another show. And they'll say, okay, we will pay for you to go on and do a segment. So in order to do that, there has to be a relationship between you and the brand, but the brand has to then have a relationship with the media source, because it's not fair if, I can't just go on national TV, because it's basically a commercial and they're supposed to pay the platform for the commercial. Mm-hmm. So, let's just say it's a credit company. Credit company pays Tiffany, and then credit company also pays The Real, and for me to have a segment. Mm-hmm. So it's a significant amount of money, but, you have a show that maybe has millions and millions of viewers that are within the demographic you're trying to reach. And so what I've seen is that these companies typically are pretty happy, and especially if I hit my points, like sponsored by this credit company. Here are 5 tips, and one of the tips is to use their credit app, So that's definitely a very lucrative. Actually, it's surprising. There are some things that you would think like doing the show, although that it's lucrative, but honestly, sending an email, depending on what your list size and your engagement is everything. Size doesn't matter, not here, right? That your engagement means everything.
Yeah.
And so I can make just as much, if not more, doing a Facebook Live than I can being on national television.
Yeah.
Because it's the engagement that you're looking for. So don't think that you have to have these huge overtures. And no, Facebook Live, IG Live, social posts, emails. If you have high engagement, people will pay good money for that.
It's such a fascinating world. It's incredibly complex. There's so many things going on. I want to just end this with asking you a question. If you could go back to the Tiffany in New Orleans, right? Mm-hmm. What would you tell her to start doing that would help her come to, obviously you're here, you made it. What would you tell her, someone starting out, really wants to do this, has this as a dream, and tell her what would be the next steps for her to take?
I would tell that Tiffany, I don't know that I would do anything different, but I definitely would. Probably the thing I would say differently is that know your numbers, right? Because back then I didn't know. So if you want to be a brand ambassador, that having an audience is going to be your best friend. Because yes, sometimes they're wanting you to, they're like, Tiffany, just you. I want you to speak to our audience. That's great. But oftentimes they're like, I want you to speak to your audience. And I get that way more. And so, like I said, it doesn't have to be a huge audience, just a responsive one. But responsive in what way? So one of the things I wish I would have done sooner is get my number. So now, whenever I do my annual Live Richer challenge, that's my annual kind of like collection of data, because the challenge is this free 3-week course and people want to do it. So I'm like, well, where do you live? How much do you make? Do you have children? So there's a registration survey where I'm able to gather data. And then I use that data to create this one sheet that Ellie loves, right? I just recently put this together. I think it was like last year. I created this one sheet where it's like all of that data is in this one sheet. So when a brand reaches out, she sends it to them and they know my numbers instantly. I create it in Canva, totally free.
Yeah.
Right? Make it look cute. But like how many social media followers, how many, what's the average open rate of my email? What's the average visitor rate to my blog? What's the average link click-through rate? How many,
good info.
Yeah, just so, because a brand is looking to say, one, who are you going to be able to attract? Who do you speak to? And two, are you going to be an effective brand ambassador, let me see your numbers. And so that's the thing I would have told Tiffany back then, is to collect numbers just sooner, because I didn't know that. So you're kind of, brands are shooting in the dark. And honestly, brands didn't know that either. But now they want to know your numbers. So I don't care how small you think they are, get your numbers together, create a cute little one sheet in Canva. And so that way you're ready for when they come calling.
Yeah. And then do you update that every year?
I update that almost every week.
Well, you have to. You have to. Sorry, that was a silly question.
Because what happens is that, like, Ellie will remind me. Like, we'll send out something, and maybe like a month or so later, someone will reach out, and she'll say, "Are these the newest numbers?" And I'll look, and I'm like, "They sure are not." So like yesterday, I went from 149,000 followers on Instagram to 150. So now that needs to go on the sheet. So you want your most, and even sometimes, like, I remember I cleaned out my email list, and we went from like 700,000 or something like that to 500,000 after cleaning out my email list. So you want to be honest. I put the lower number on my sheet because people are going to want to know. So you're just wanting to make sure that you're keeping your list up to date. So typically a new request triggers me to look to make sure that my one sheet is up to date.
That's awesome. And I am so excited for you and what you're doing. And I'm proud of you, because of, like, if I can say that, like, because I was there, and I had just have that unique experience of seeing just how far you've come and the things that you're doing today to really ultimately change lives. And
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you and everything that you're doing. So
Thank
you
you
so much for hanging out today.
You're welcome. And honestly, if anybody's watching, I just say, if you put service first, everything else comes, honestly. Because at the end of the day, everything is going to be wiped clean, and what truly is what's going to be shown. And so if you put service first, then that's what people engage with. That's what people connect with. That's what brands want to feel like, so,
Yeah.
So I get it. We all want to be these huge superstars, but put service first and you'll be okay.
Amazing. And with that, Tiffany Aliche, everyone. Thank you so much, Tiffany.
Thank you, Bethany.
Hey guys, wasn't that awesome? I love Tiffany. I love the work that she's doing. And this is just great information. This is good content about what it looks like to be a brand ambassador. And even though we don't have Tiffany with us today, unfortunately, she is off traveling, doing her thing. I do have a special person. I got connections, you guys. I have a special person, Ellie Kay, her agent, is in the comments. She's watching. Hello, Ellie. Thank you so much for joining us today. She can answer your questions that you have about brand ambassador in general. So if you have questions about brand ambassador work, things that maybe you're not doing right, maybe you need to do better, she can answer those questions. So go ahead and type those in the comments right now. Ellie will be able to answer those. However, I do have a loving disclaimer for everyone. This is not a time to connect professionally on this level. So if you're looking for an agent, this is not the time to do that. Even though I love you all, this is a time for discussion and for us to talk about what it looks like to be a brand ambassador in the space right now. Ellie's in the space. She's working. She knows all the details when it comes to these things. She's working deals every single day. So this is a time, again, to talk about that. Now, before we get to your questions, go ahead, leave them in the comments, shout out, tell me you're here. I'll say hi to you. Hey, Dennis, I'm so glad that you're here. You had a really wonderful quote from when we were watching our thing that I want to share. So Dennis said, it's powerful to say no to a company and their money that doesn't fit with your brand. So the beautiful thing that I love about what Tiffany was saying is you have to put in the work. And even though you think like, I don't want it, like all this stuff is super great and philosophical and you should do, no. When it comes to being loyal and protecting your brand, that is what gets work over and over and over. And engagement, again, I think it was Dennis who said this, engagement is keeping it, engagement is everything that you need. And Ellie added that the engagement from Tiffany's Dreamcatchers have actually crashed websites. They are so active and engaged because they trust Tiffany. And that is really what it comes down to as a brand ambassador. Because as a brand ambassador, if you protect your audience, if you say no to the people who do not best serve your audience, if you protect your audience, they see that and they are loyal to you till the very end. So I love how Tiffany has done that. If you know any of her dream catchers, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And the cool thing too, and I was talking about this with her after the interview, is that your audience is in places you don't even know. So if you protect your audience first, they will always be bringing it back to you. So, for example, there can be times that maybe someone who follows you is one of these key decision makers and they just happen to think, oh, this is a great campaign we're doing. I follow this person over here. They would be a perfect fit. So those are just some things to keep in mind. Let's look through these comments. We'll see what you guys are saying. Dennis says he loved it. Thanks, Dennis. We love you. Thanks for showing up. Is it Phoenicia? Phoenicia, Ellie Kay, at what point, number-wise, should we begin working with brands? That is an excellent question. At what point should we be working with brands? So one of the other things that I love Tiffany said was that know your numbers at all times. So that means even if you think that you have baby numbers right now, even if you're not at, you don't have to be at 700,000 right now, but know your numbers. Back when she had 3,000 and 4,000, she knew her numbers and she could send that in a beautiful Canva free designed web one sheet. She could send those to brands that were interested in her. And so Ellie does say that it depends, but usually a 10K in a platform is a point where you should start becoming very attractive to brands. And I believe at that point it's more influx. That's a good word. Influx than it is outflux. So influx is the brands are coming to you. You're not necessarily going out and looking for the brands. They usually come to you. Let's see what else that they're saying. Shantae said, should I wait for brands to reach out to me or should I be pushing to make my presence known? Awesome. Wow, I feel like that's a perfect segue for what we were asking. Is this influx or outflux? Should she be reaching out to brands or should brands be reaching out to her? Let's see what Ellie says. Ellie says, they can find you, but you can find them too. Make appointments at FinCon. They are looking for influencers. Look at this. They are looking for influencers. This is one of the reasons I love FinCon so much and networking, because when it comes to working with brands, it is all about relationships. All about relationships. I'm going to make a t-shirt. It says it's all about relationships. So connecting with brands, again, going in, knowing your numbers, having a really pretty little one sheet that you can give to them, or super awesome, manly one sheet that you, and whatever represents your brand, give it to them and make appointments. And so there's the pro networking. If you don't have a pro pass, that's an excellent opportunity for you to meet with brands, to connect with them because they're looking for influencers, and a pro networking session is like a matchmaker for brands and influencers. It's a really beautiful speed dating session. So make sure you check that out. Let's see what else it says, what you guys are saying. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Ellie asked, did I explain what an SMT is? No, I did not, Ellie Kay. I did not explain what an SMT is. So an SMT is something that brands do in the brand ambassador space. And basically you're hired by a brand. And Ellie, please correct me if I'm wrong because you are more the expert than I when it comes to such matters. But when it comes to working with brands in this space, a brand has a specific messaging. So it could be an event, it could be a campaign that they're running, it could be anything like that. And they want to get their messaging out on as many media platforms as possible in the shortest amount of time. So a satellite media tour is where a brand will pay you. You'll sit in a studio. Usually you hit out of LA or New York. You'll sit in a studio for about 3 or 4 hours, hair, makeup, all the stuff. And then you have interviews across the country on syndicated networks. So you will hit one interview after the next, after the next, after the next. It can be anywhere between 15 to sometimes even 30 or more interviews in one day. And you're saying the same thing over and over and over again. And brands have a specific messaging and it's all disclosed. People know this is sponsored by whoever. If you want a really great example of this, Ellie does have, if you have the virtual pass from FinCon 18, so she did an encore presentation from the one that Tiffany went to in 2014. She has one in 18. And so if you have questions, if you want to see an example of what a satellite media tour with the messaging, it's in the virtual pass from 2018 about brand ambassadors. Again, look that up. We have another question. Let's see. Is Phoenicia, and again, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, let me know. Tell me how to say it. Phoenicia, if we don't have 10K yet, would you advise still starting to build relationships at FinCon? Ellie Kay, what is the best, not Bethany, best method to do so? And so Ellie said, absolutely. Even if you don't have 10,000 followers, that's okay. Build relationships. Because, and I haven't read her comment yet. I'm still going through. But I should just read it before I say it. Build relationships. Tiffany came to FinCon in 2014 and had nothing in terms of brand work. But she made contacts that served her well later. And as I said, it's about relationships and being nice and fun as a potential dream client. They want to find a reason to work with you. So if you have a good relationship with a brand, even if your numbers are not there yet, that will serve you in the long game, right? So this brand ambassadorship, I said that so many times. Is that wrong? If I'm wrong, I don't want to be right. Brand ambassadorship is all about the relationships, but it's a long game. It's like you're not going to go run a marathon right now if you haven't ever run in your life. But if you are constantly working it up, you're building it. It's not an overnight success. It is constantly building your relationships, networking, all of those things. So again, it's the long run. And what I love what Tiffany said was do the work. Do the work. You have to do the work. If you don't do the work, if you do not build it, they will not come, right? Field of Dreams. No, I don't know. If you know what I'm talking about, let me know. Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. So again, we're talking about general brand ambassador questions. If you have brand ambassador questions, again, if you're just now joining us, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will have a replay of this in the group. But if you want just a brief condensed version, Nick earlier dropped the link into the comments for the blog that we have out today. And so you can go look at the blog. It's all the things that we talked about in a blog version. And then we have a super special treat for you guys. On Monday, it will be in a podcast. So if you don't want to go back and watch this video, that's okay. It will be in a podcast on Monday, our Money and Media. Go download it. Plus, a really cool exclusive only on the podcast. We have a cool exclusive interview with Kat Alford, who we just announced as one of our big idea speakers for this year. So again, all this information is available to you in any way you want to consume it. We're trying to make it easy for you guys to learn and make relationships about these things and these topics that interest you. Again, we have a Facebook Live every single week. This month, we're focusing on brands. We're going to be talking about what it looks like to work with a brand, but also what brands do to work with influencers from the brand side and what content they're going to be putting out. So I'm really excited about. Let's hop back to the questions. Let's see what we go. I'm just going to try to stick to just the general questions that help everyone. Talking about nurturing your community, grow it, multiple platforms, keep taking care of your community. Ellie, you think I'm so funny and encouraging? Wow! Thank you! You're not biased at all. Wendy says this is so helpful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Wendy, for showing up today. And by that, I mean for joining us today. Nick says, if you have access to the FinCon virtual pass, you can see this session mentioned right there. So Nick went ahead and dropped the session. If you have questions about brand ambassador work, what it looks like, what you need to do, all of those things, then go ahead and look at that session from the virtual pass. If you are at FinCon 18, if you have the virtual pass, you can watch that session right there. It is extremely helpful. Again, Ellie gave it in 2014 and she gave it again in 2018. So she did the same session updated for 2018. That's the latest one with all that information. So please go ahead and go ahead and go look at those things, all of those questions. If you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Go ask over there. I don't know, Ellie, I can't speak for you. You might still be able to answer questions even after the fact. And Ellie says, let's look at this. Ellie says, Goodwill coin has a lot to do with the quantity and quality of work a brand ambassador gets. And I think we're going to end on this today because I think it's an excellent topic. So Goodwill coin is the concept, and if you haven't heard of it, I will explain it very quickly. Goodwill coin is the concept that in any professional working relationship, whether it's connecting with a brand at FinCon, whether it's working through satellite media tours or companies or whatever it is, in every relationship, everyone's given a certain amount of Goodwill coin. So it's like somebody puts a bag of gold coins on your desk and you can use it at any point to get goodwill from whoever you're working with. And everyone has goodwill on either sides, whether it's a brand or it's an influencer. So someone who is hard to work with, they might put a lot of demands, they might have a lot of things, and that goodwill coin is used up very, very quickly. But if you use your goodwill coin, if you're easy to work with, if you maintain relationships, if you are about the people that you are working with and not just about the money, the numbers, or getting any of those things, then your goodwill coin will go a very long way. And if you have goodwill coin with people, then they are more likely to do things for you because of that mutually beneficial relationship. So if you've already burned those bridges, if you are already, labeled, and you can be labeled as hard to work with. It happens frequently in the space. You are labeled hard to work with and people will not want to work with you. If people love working with you, if they love who you are and what you stand for and protecting your brand and acting with integrity, then they will want to work with you over and over and over, and they will recommend you to people over and over and over again. And it goes a very, very long way. And I will end it with what Tiffany said was put service first. At the very end, everything will be washed away, and what your service you put will be what was left over. So always put service first. And you might not think that that's a big part of brand ambassadorness, all those things. You might not think that that's a part, but it's a massive part. It is a crucial part in any brand ambassador working relationship. Ellie says, try to exceed expectations when you work with brands, but don't do work for free and don't let them take advantage of you. So again, that's a whole nother topic. If you have questions, Ellie says that she will. Ellie says, sure, I'll answer question after. Just message me. And she said, buy her daughter a cup of coffee. All right, you guys, this has been an awesome time. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be here every single week. I really liked 11 o'clock Central better. If you think that time works, just drop a yes, Bethany. Or yeah, or whatever it is. Let me know. Thank you so much for joining, and we will see you next week when we talk with a brand. We will be talking with a brand of that comes to FinCon. Look through our announcements to see that we'll see who it is. All right, we'll see you next week. Bye, guys. Thank you.